Question 1. Under the assumption that a technician is servicing a high-pressure rooftop system with 60 pounds of R22 and detects a refrigerant leak, what must the technician do if the leak rate exceeds the threshold under current EPA regulations? A. Immediately recover all refrigerant and retrofit the unit with a DUP alternative. B. Repair the leak within 30 days of detection or develop and document a retrofit retirement plan within 30 days. C. Replace the entire system regardless of repair feasibility. D. Top off the refrigerant and monitor the system monthly for further leaks. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. For systems containing equals 50 pounds of refrigerant, EPA requires that leaks be repaired within 30 days if the leak rate exceeds 20% annually for comfort cooling or 30% for commercial refrigeration per 40 CFR Part 82, Subpart F. If repair isn't feasible, retrofit retirement plan must be documented within 30 days. Topping off violates EPA's venting prohibition. Full system replacement isn't required unless repair or retrofit isn't feasible. Question 2. By evaluating the recovery method for a high-pressure appliance that has a functioning compressor and holds over 15 pounds of R400 TINA, which recovery technique must be used according to EPA regulations? A. Passive recovery, using internal pressure to force refrigerant into a container. B. System-dependent recovery, relying on system pressure, a non-mechanical method. C. Active recovery with self-contained recovery equipment capable of achieving mandated vacuum levels. D. Gravity-fed transfer into an unpressurized recovery drum. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. EPA requires the use of active, self-contained recovery equipment for appliances containing more than 15 ounces of refrigerant 40 CR S.156. Passive recovery is not permitted for high-pressure appliances. System-dependent recovery is limited to small appliances. Only active recovery ensures required vacuum levels per EPA evacuation requirements. Table 1, 40 CR S.156. Question 3. In light of recent developments, a facility upgraded a high-pressure chiller to use a new refrigerant blend with higher operating pressures. The technician plans to reuse the existing pressure relief valve. What should the technician consider? A. Relief valves can be reused as long as they have not discharged. B. A new relief valve is only required if the refrigerant is flammable. C. Relief valves must be rated for the new refrigerant's pressure and replaced if incompatible. D. Pressure relief valves are universal and need no modification. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Pressure relief devices must be compatible with the new refrigerant's pressure characteristics. Using an old relief valve may result in under or overpressurization. ASHRAE Standard 15 and EPA 608 emphasize matching relief devices to system pressure. Reusing valves without recalibration or pressure rating confirmation violates safety protocols. Question 4. While examining refrigerant blends used as substitutes for phase HEFCS, why is it critical to charge a zeotropic blend like our 407 in the liquid state? A. To prevent temperature glide from lowering system performance. B. Because vapor charging ensures full component separation. C. Liquid charging minimizes oil migration to the compressor. D. Vapor charging could create a high side overpressure hazard. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Zeotropic blends e.g. R407 have component refrigerants that evaporate at different rates, leading to composition shift during vapor charging. Charging in liquid form ensures blend integrity, preventing fractionation and maintaining temperature glide within expected limits. Per RE guideline and EPA guidance, vapor charging is prohibited for blends like R407. Question 5. From a practical standpoint, which of the following is a compliant and safe method for transporting recovered refrigerant cylinders? A. Storing the cylinder horizontally in a sealed plastic container. B. Securing the cylinder upright with proper dot labeling in a ventilated vehicle. C. Placing the cylinder in the passenger seat with air conditioning on. D. Keeping the cylinder in the trunk with windows closed to avoid vapor escape. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Regulations 49 CFR Parts 171, 180 and EPA guidelines require that recovery cylinders be upright, properly labeled, capped and transported in a ventilated space. Storing horizontally may damage valves. Closed environments risk asphyxiation or fire hazards if leaks occur. Safety mandates upright transport with appropriate cylinder marking, e.g. refrigerant recovery. Question 6. Considering the evidence, a technician is charging a high-pressure R400 TINA system with a fixed orifice metering device. What is the most accurate method to determine proper charge? A. Measure subcooling on the high side. B. Use superheat measurement on the suction side. C. Charge until sight glass is full. D. Add refrigerant until suction pressure equals saturation temperature. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. For systems with fixed orifice metering devices, the superheat method is recommended to ensure proper charge per manufacturer specs and EPA guidelines. Subcooling is more accurate with TSSPS. Side glasses are unreliable, and suction pressure alone doesn't reflect charge accuracy. EPA 608 training materials and ARIAC protocol support superheat charging in these cases. Question 7. Demonstrated by best practices when evacuating a high-pressure system with over 200 pounds of R22 before opening the system for service. What minimum vacuum level must be achieved using recovery equipment manufactured after November 15, 1993? A. 10 inches of Hg. B. 15 inches of Hg. C. 0 inches of Hg. D. 10 millimeters Hg absolute. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. According to EPA Table 1 of 40 CR S.156, for high-pressure appliances with 200 pounds of refrigerant, recovery equipment manufactured after 11/15/1993 must evacuate to 10 mm Hg absolute. This ensures removal of both refrigerant and moisture. Using inches of mercury or imprecise measures does not meet the regulatory standard for evacuation. Question 8. To better understand the efficiency of recovery equipment during field servicing, which factor most significantly affects the speed and success of refrigerant recovery from a high-pressure system? A. The compressor's oil type. B. The ambient air temperature only. C. The hose length and diameter used during recovery. D. The presence of a thermostatic expansion valve. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Hose size significantly impacts recovery time. Shorter hoses with larger internal diameters reduce pressure drop, increasing flow rate as supported by EPA and equipment manufacturers. While ambient temperature has some effect, its secondary, oil type and metering devices do not directly affect recovery efficiency. Always follow recovery equipment guidelines. Question 9. Through the lens of EPA regulations, which step must a technician take before disposing of a commercial high-pressure appliance? A. Tag the appliance as non-repairable and discard immediately. B. Remove all refrigerant and document recovery using an EPA-certified device. C. Vent the remaining refrigerant if it's under 10 pounds. D. Drain the oil and leave refrigerant for recycling. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EPA prohibits venting of refrigerants per 40 CFR S.154. Technicians must recover all refrigerant using certified equipment and maintain proper records. Failure to recover refrigerant prior to disposal violates the Clean Air Act. Tagging or draining oil alone does not satisfy the recovery requirement. Question 10. Given the circumstances Mr. Bennett is servicing a commercial refrigeration rack system and needs to isolate a leaking evaporator coil without recovering refrigerant from the entire system, what is a compliant method to isolate the component? A. Close service valves to isolate the coil and leave refrigerant trapped. B. Use a recovery machine to pull refrigerant from the coil before opening it. C. Open the coil and let the system's high pressure expel the refrigerant. D. Low system charge by venting to atmosphere and isolate afterward. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EPA regulations, Fort Sierra S.156, require recovery of refrigerant before opening any part of system. Even isolated components must be evacuated to required levels. Venting refrigerant or relying on valve isolation without recovery violates the Clean Air Act. Using certified recovery unit is the only compliant method. Question 11. A detailed analysis of a high-pressure recovery cylinder revealed rising pressure during storage even though ambient temperatures remained constant. What is the most likely cause? A. Excess lubricant entering the cylinder during recovery. B. Cylinder valve left partially open after sealing. C. Presence of non-condensable gases in the recovered refrigerant. D. Low refrigerant purity due to oil breakdown. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Non-condensables, air, nitrogen do not condense under normal system pressures and temperatures. Increasing system or storage pressure according to EPA guidelines and RE standard 700. Recovered refrigerant must be tested for purity, especially before reuse. These contaminants degrade system efficiency and may trigger safety valves. Valve or oil issues wouldn't explain stable ambient pressure rise. Question 12. Contrary to popular belief, why is it unsafe to use mineral oil with R400 TINA in high-pressure systems? A. Mineral oil causes high moisture retention in R400 TINA systems. B. Mineral oil reacts chemically with hydrofluorocarbons, causing corrosion. C. R400 TINA has poor miscibility with mineral oil, risking inadequate lubrication. D. Mineral oil solidifies under high pressures generated by R400 TINA. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. R400 TINA requires synthetic oils like PO due to their high miscibility. Incompatibility leads to oil separation, resulting in inadequate compressor lubrication. EPA training materials emphasize correct oil pairing. Misuse leads to reduced efficiency and potential compressor failure. Chemical reaction or solidification is not the primary concern. Question 13. During the process of servicing a 100 lb 130 for a system technician, Mr. Alvarez attempts to open the high-side service port while the system is running. What immediate risk does this present? A. Low pressure backflow into the recovery cylinder. B. Freezing of compressor oil due to flash gas. C. High pressure release that could cause burns or equipment damage. D. Acid formation inside the recovery machine. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Opening a high side port under system pressure can release pressurized refrigerant rapidly, risking frostbite, burns, or hose rupture. EPA safety guidelines mandate depressurization or system shutdown before such actions. There is no immediate oil freezing or acid formation at this stage. Backflow relates to improper cylinder use, not port access. Question 14. The underlying principle of installing a receiver in a high-pressure system is to A. Prevent liquid refrigerant from reaching the expansion device. B. Isolate oil from refrigerant before it enters the metering device. C. Temporarily store excess liquid refrigerant during system operation. D. Directly filter out moisture from the suction line. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Receivers store excess liquid refrigerant downstream of the condenser, especially in systems with variable load or ambient conditions. They help prevent flooding of the evaporator or metering device. Moisture removal is handled by filter dryers, not receivers. Accumulators on suction lines protect compressors, not receivers. Question 15. In comparison with previous inspections, a supermarket technician notes that a 250 lb R404 rack system has lost 75 pounds in 90 days. What is the leak rate and is it within EPA limits? 27%. Must be repaired or plans submitted. B. 32%. Exceeds limits and must be repaired within 30 days. C. 24%. Within acceptable EPA threshold. D. 30%. Requires retrofit. Plan only if repair isn't feasible. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Leak rate equals 75 to 150, 9 to 365 equals 0.30, 0.2466 equals approx. 32%. For commercial refrigeration, EPA's maximum annual allowable leak rate is 20%, 40 CFR S.157. Leak exceeding that must be repaired or addressed with documented plan. 32% limits and requires corrective action within 30 days. Question 16. By comparing moisture removal techniques, which condition best facilitates deep system dehydration using a vacuum pump? A. Using a high CFM vacuum pump on a warm system. B. Applying heat while pumping through the suction port only. C. Operating a vacuum pump while charging refrigerant vapor. D. Recovering oil first, then evacuating with an air compressor. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. Heat increases moisture vapor pressure, enhancing vacuum pump effectiveness. A high-capacity pump reduces evacuation time. Charging during evacuation introduces contaminants. Air compressors are not approved. EPA and ASE's guidance stress warm systems and proper CFM rating for thorough dehydration. Question 17. From multiple perspectives, what is the most appropriate response if recovered R22 is suspected to be contaminated with air? A. Return it to the system slowly to avoid damage. B. Filter and reuse it immediately. C. Send it to a certified reclaimer for processing. D. Vent the air portion and reuse the refrigerant. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Venting is illegal. Clean Air Act 40 CFRS .154. Reuse of contaminated refrigerant can damage systems. Only certified reclaimers, EPA certified under Section 608, can restore refrigerant to RE 700 purity. Filtering doesn't remove non-condensables. Reuse without reprocessing violates EPA and RE standards. Question 18. As evidenced by best practices for R400 TINA systems with microchannel coils, which charging method is most accurate and prevents system damage? A. Superheat method regardless of metering device. B. Use of a charging chart with pressure temperature matching. C. Wane method using manufacturer's exact charge. D. Charging until the suction line feels cool. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Microchannel systems are charge sensitive. Manufacturers specify precise charge amounts that must be weighed in. Feeling suction lines is imprecise. Superheats of cooling are valid under certain conditions, but Wane ensures compliance with factory specs. EPA and OEM manuals favor weighing for accuracy and system integrity. Question 19. The core principles of Section 608 of the Clean Air Act primarily aim to A. Restrict manufacturers from producing new refrigeration appliances. B. Eliminate all use of refrigerants in HVAC systems. C. Reduce emissions of ozone-depleting substances and regulate refrigerant handling. D. Increase production of synthetic refrigerants to boost industry growth. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Section 608 regulates refrigerant handling, leak repair, recovery, and certification of technicians to minimize odds emissions. It doesn't ban HVAC or synthetic refrigerants. The rule supports safe practices while complying with U.S. obligations under the Montreal Protocol. Refer to EPA's 40 CFR Part 82 for specific mandates. Question 20. In response to global environmental damage, what was the main objective of the Montreal Protocol? They encourage use of adopa hydrocarbons in all sectors. B. Standardize refrigerant cylinder color codes worldwide. C. Phase out production of ozone-depleting substances globally. D. Mandate licensing for all HVAC system owners. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Signed in 1987, the Montreal Protocol aims to phase out odds like EFCs, HFCs, protecting the ozone layer. It's the basis for U.S. regulations like the Clean Air Act amendments and Section 608. Cylinder color coding and licensing are not direct protocol goals. It's the most successful global environmental treaty to date. Question 21. Throughout the course of routine maintenance, a technician is evaluating a system charged with R400 TINA. Compared to R22, what specific safety consideration must the technician observe when working with R400 TINA? A. It operates at significantly low pressures and may not trigger high-pressure cutouts. B. R400 TINA is toxic when exposed to moisture and requires full-face respirators. C. R400 TINA operates at significantly higher pressures and requires specially rated tools and equipment. D. It is a blend that cannot be stored in recovery cylinders. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. R400 TINA operates at pressures up to 60% higher than R22. This necessitates use of hoses, gauges, and recovery equipment rated for high pressures per manufacturer specs and EPA guidelines. R400 TINA is non-toxic under normal conditions and is stored like other HFCS. Misusing low-pressure tools could cause rupture or injury. Question 22. Examining the consequences of improper disposal, which step is mandatory before scrapping a high-pressure HVAC system? A. Remove all refrigerant using EPA-certified recovery equipment. B. Document oil content and forward it to a certified lab. C. Replace all O-rings and seals with inert caps. D. Run the compressor for 10 minutes to purge the refrigerant. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. According to 40 CRS .154, all refrigerant must be recovered using certified equipment before disposing of an appliance. There is no requirement to test oil before disposal. Running compressors or modifying seals does not meet EPA regulations. Failure to recover refrigerant is considered illegal venting. Question 23. While it is true that electronic leak detectors are widely used, which method provides the most precise verification of a small leak in a high-pressure system suspected of leaking around braced joints? A. Monitoring compressor amperage over time. B. Applying an ultrasonic detector to the suction line. C. Using a trace gas with nitrogen and soap bubble solution. D. Checking temperature difference across evaporator coil. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. The soap bubble method using trace refrigerant and nitrogen as a carrier offers visual confirmation of microleaks. Electronic and ultrasonic detectors are helpful but may provide false positives. Temperature differences in compressor current changes are indirect indicators and not specific to leak location. EPA training emphasizes trace gas and visual confirmation. Question 24. From a historical standpoint, what is the primary reason technicians are advised to wear protective gloves and goggles during refrigerant recovery? A. To prevent oil absorption into the skin. B. To guard against acid burns from used refrigerant. C. To prevent frostbite and eye injury from liquid refrigerant exposure. D. To maintain compliance with the OSHA toxic gas policy. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Refrigerant rapidly evaporates at atmospheric pressure, causing frostbite or eye damage on contact. EPA and OSHA both emphasize personal protective equipment, PPE. A. Prevent exposure. Gloves protect from freeze burns. Goggles shield against eye injuries. Acid burns are possible from contaminated systems, but frostbite is the primary risk. Question 25. Based on the information, what is the most efficient method to recover refrigerant from a high-pressure system with a functional compressor and large receiver? A. Use the system compressor to push refrigerant into a recovery cylinder, then finish with a recovery machine. B. Rely solely on gravity feed and open all service valves. C. Vent refrigerant slowly into the atmosphere before opening the receiver. D. Remove the receiver, place it on a scale, and drain it through the suction line. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. When possible, using the system's compressor to push refrigerant into recovery tank speeds recovery. After system pressure drops, switch to certified recovery machines to meet final vacuum levels. EPA 40 CFRS .156. Gravity feed alone is insufficient and venting is strictly prohibited. Receivers should not be physically removed under charge. Question 26. With the advent of Vado refrigerants, the technician decides to retrofit a commercial system originally using R22. Which of the following steps must be completed before charging with the replacement refrigerant? A. Change the metering device and increase suction line diameter. B. Fully recover R22, replacing compatible components and label the system with the new refrigerant and oil type. C. Mix the replacement refrigerant with R22 to balance pressures. D. Add PO oil on top of mineral oil to aid miscibility. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EPA mandates full recovery of the original refrigerant before retrofit. 40 CFRS .155. The system must be labeled with the new refrigerant and compatible oil. Mixing refrigerants is illegal and unsafe. Oil layering does not guarantee compatibility. Some components like seals and metering devices may also need replacement. Question 27. When evaluating the merits of different charging methods for a KIPT R130 for a system, what should be the technician's preferred method for accurate charging? A. Weigh the refrigerant in based on system tonnage. B. Monitor superheat on the suction line. C. Measure subcooling at the liquid line. D. Check sight glass for steady bubbles. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. With ESVS, subcooling is the preferred method to ensure proper condenser performance and charge level. Superheat is better for fixed orifice systems. Tonnage-based weighing is an estimate, not precision. Sight glasses are not fully reliable. EPA and OEM protocols support subcooling methods for TSV systems. Question 20. The effectiveness of recovery equipment is heavily dependent on regular maintenance. What routine practice is essential for ensuring recovery, efficiency, and regulatory compliance? A. Replacing compressor oil with refrigerant oil monthly. B. Cleaning or replacing inlet filters and checking for oil contamination. C. Recalibrating the manifold gauge every week. D. Filling recovery cylinders to 95% to maximize storage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Clogged filters or oil-contaminated lines reduce recovery efficiency and can damage internal components. EPA recommends inspecting recovery units regularly. Overfilling cylinders is dangerous and violates DOT and EPA rules. Recalibration is less frequent unless gauges are damaged. Oil types are system-specific and not routinely swapped. Question 29. The traditional approach to appliance servicing often led to refrigerant venting. Under EPA's Section 608 rules, what practice is strictly prohibited during refrigerant recovery? A. Using recovery equipment that pulls below 0 sig. B. Venting residual refrigerant from hoses during disconnection. C. Evacuating to 15-inch HG on high-pressure appliances. D. Labeling cylinders without DOT approval. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Even small releases during hose disconnection are considered illegal venting unless recovery of line refrigerant is performed. EPA requires technicians to use low-loss fittings or refrigerant management practices to prevent venting. 40 CRS.154. Evacuation levels and cylinder labeling are also regulated, but venting is the central violation. Question 30. Taking into account the need to service a liquid line filter dryer in a running high-pressure system, what should technician is Rosario do before opening the line? A. Turn off the condenser fan motor only. B. Isolate the section with valves and recover refrigerant from the isolated area. C. Shut down the evaporator while leaving the compressor running. D. Release a small portion of pressure from the access port before cutting. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EPA requires that all refrigerant in any path is system to be opened must first be recovered. 40 CRS.156. Isolating the section, then recovering its contents before service is compliant and safe. Partial shutdowns or pressure releases do not meet legal standards and pose safety risks.